Welcome to the PMPC Mastermind. I wanted to discuss documents because a lot of you guys are struggling with some of the integration we have from Dotloop, DocuSign, Command, all of this thing. So I want to talk best practices and strategies to help you understand how to get your documents done faster, more efficiently, and more accurately. Do you think that's going to be beneficial to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let me ask you now, the ones that are on the call, I'm sure we'll have some people that pop in. How are you doing it now, Jason? What's your process for documents now?
Well, I just switched last week. In the past, I had gone in Dotloop for everything. And just last week, I wrote my first couple of offers by going through Command and then into DocuSign.
Are you pulling all the documents out of the DocuSign file structure?
Yep. So in DocuSign, whenever I add a document, I'll click on Southern Arizona. Just pull it out of that template, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, that file structure, not really a template.
Not really. I need a template.
And that's what I want to talk about, is how we can help you, what you can do, what steps you can take to make it a little easier on you. It's kind of a pain in the ass right now.
It's stressing me out. Last week when I had to write a couple of offers and I wasn't familiar with it, I leaned on my transaction coordinator and I was thinking to myself, man, if I had to do like a lot of document work, I wouldn't want to be a realtor.
I think Sean Polson's even on the call even says you take the people and the paperwork out of real estate, and it's an amazing thing.
It's actually there's only three things.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah.
There's only three things about real estate that make it tough. It's buyers, sellers, and other agents.
Other agents, yeah.
Yeah. Get rid of all three of those and it'd be a great gig.
No, I'm with you. A lot of people are having the same frustrations, Jason. I personally use Transaction Desk for all my documents, just signing and sending out, and then I just upload them. But what you can do, I don't know if you know this, is we get zip forms through our association, and you can actually pair zip forms with DocuSign as just the signing agent. So what you can do is you can actually set up your zip form templates that has all of the documents in a buyer template or a seller template, and you can go and pre-fill that information and drop that right into DocuSign and just have them signed through DocuSign.
Yeah.
That's one way to make your life a little easier if you don't want to learn a completely different system. It's just very simple to set up a zip forms file for, 123 Main Street. It pulls in all the information from the MLS. You update the information you want. You save the documents. You jump over to DocuSign, add forms from zip forms. It asks you which transaction you'd like to pull from, and you do that.
Okay, so I would set up the templates in zip forms, and I would actually fill them out in zip forms.
Right.
And then
everything
pull them in DocuSign just to get them sent off for signatures.
Right.
Copy.
Hey, Jason, it's Heather. I can meet with you next week and show you how to do it.
Great.
I'd show you now, but you're driving. It's not very safe.
Where's your mouse?
Does it keep saying my mouse is disconnected?
One thing I doing some research, and I knew this, but I forgot. Of course, when you're over 50, that happens. Anyway, RPR. I went to RPR to do some paperwork, and they had all the information that I was researching through government sites out of Cochise County and looking up the schools and all this, the districts and the information. Yesterday, wasted time when RPR had it all on one sheet as soon as I put the property information in. So that's a big time saver if anyone wants to know. I went in there just to do the charitable market analysis and They immediately, the first page is a property fact sheet, and they had basically most of the information that I was researching, and they had it in 2 seconds that it took me, a little bit longer. So just a time saver there.
It's not always the most accurate. I will be honest with you, because it is a realtor resource and it's pulling from other places. You just want to make sure that you verify the information if something seems off, but it's going to give you a lot of great information up front.
Okay.
What I have found is the properties that have been massively changed, like an addition added or properties, split off, like if there's acreage that was cut, I'm noticing that that's not popping up on the RPR at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I already had all that directly from the assessor's office, so I did verify it. But yeah, it's nice to know they have pulled it up, and what they did have was accurate. They even had an old plat map.
Yeah. Who else is still using DocuSign to get their or Dotloop to get their documents and prep in order?
Me.
Was it me? Melissa?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the time we start adopting the change now, is to force yourself into action, force yourself into doing it so that you practice with it, so that you're not practicing when you actually have to write a contract. The most important thing you can be is prepared, and doing so now is going to be ideal. So create a fake command profile for yourself, make your own command customer, your contact, go in there, fill out all your information. You should have at least one command contact that's got 100% health. You should. Just make sure that that's you. And then go in there, create an opportunity for yourself. Start with a listing, start with the buyer, just understanding what's there. And if you do not have a copy of the compliance checklist that was sent out in the team meeting a couple weeks ago, I'm going to actually have it uploaded to our one KWSO website on the resources tab, so you can have that resource at a click. It also gives you the flow chart of what to do in command and getting that deal compliant. Actually, for everyone on the PC email list, I think I sent that out already. Did y'all get it?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I'll have to check. But I started this transaction in that opportunities section. So if I add you to it, will you be able to see it? Just have like second eyes, make sure I'm doing it right.
In command opportunities, no. There's no way for anyone other than the broker staff to have oversight unless it's your team owner, and since you're an independent. So
Right. Okay.
Sean, you guys have adopted command, haven't you, lately?
Yeah. I don't personally do all that stuff, but yeah, we were in the lab I think we've been on command for 3 years. So
yeah, Stephanie had said that you guys were pretty well invested in it. I know that there's been some headaches on the compliance or the pay side of it, the comp structured or some accurate shit there. So we're trying to get that lined out. But I know that it's good that there's actually been some mega teams in our company, Sean's team, and as well as I think one other team within KLP that were well embedded in command when it first came out. So the good thing is
it's amazing how far it's come in 3 years from what it could do to what it does now.
Shit, I didn't even know it was out 3 years ago, because I started just about a year ago with Keller Williams, and it was first starting to get rolled out to us then. And I remember how broken it was. I can only imagine what it was a year and a half, 2 years prior to that.
It hardly did anything. Yeah, it was just coming along. So,
well, thank you for being part of the crew that broke it and got it fixed.
Well, we actually, it was actually so difficult to do much with it early on that we stopped, and then eventually picked it back up about a year ago. And I don't know if there's any other team leaders on here, but the way I figured out how you get all of your team to buy into command, it's real easy.
Make it mandatory.
You get some pizzas, you lock them in the training room, and you go through the entire process, and everybody gets set up on it until they leave. That's how you do it. So,
Not a bad idea.
just asking them to do it doesn't seem to work. So
And then for those of you who are not on a mobile device, I put in the chat, and I think Robin did as well. Thank you, Robin. The compliance packet that you have from Command. I will make sure again that gets put up on our resource page on 1kwsa.com, make it easier. But I like that, Sean. Don't really give them an option. Feed them, get it done, get them pushed in. So for the rest of you, order yourselves a pizza, lock yourselves in your room, and get your shit set up. Simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's pretty easy. Donna, we walked through it today. It wasn't that difficult once you understand the process, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that difficult at all once you were showing me. First of all, we have so many different places to go, but I wasn't even in the right place. And so once I figured out that I was in the wrong place and they showed me where to go and helped me to make sure I was connected, it honestly isn't bad at all.
Yeah, so and I showed you how to utilize zip forms being your document carrier and just using DocuSign as a signing agent.
Right.
I like that because you have full functionality in zip forms where you can have templates, you can fill them out, you can have all of that information kind of pre-filled and all the documents you're going to need right away instead of clicking on the damn drop downs to this drop down and this drop down and this drop down. I don't understand why DocuSign doesn't have the same search functionality. However, not my place. We just have to find the workaround. So.
I like that idea. I think I'm going to use that because I've been having, as I told you in an email, some issues, and Heather said some other people are having issues as well with DocuSign. When you get it perfect, when you fill it out, and then you hit save and close, and then it deletes information or puts more information in that you didn't have, like put my seller in my buyer line, and I deleted it 4 times off of one form and finally had to put a period there because it just kept putting it there on one form. I was ready to pull my hair out last night.
So I actually had that happen on zip forms.
Oh no.
So I don't know if it's DocuSign or zip or if it's the form itself. I would fill it out and save it. And then I always open it up and go back in and look just to recheck my work. And there would be stuff missing or boxes checked that weren't checked before. And I did it several times myself. I think I told you, Dan, I filled it out like 4 times.
Right. And you thought the one we were pulling over wasn't the right one anyway, so. Yeah,
I didn't because I thought it was the blank one. But thankfully it had saved it and it finally did save it correctly. But I wasn't in DocuSign at all doing that. I was only in zip forms last night doing that.
And zip form is actually relatively easy to use.
Yeah.
And it's integrated through our program, which is nice. You want to make sure,
Sounds like we just need to print it all out, do the old style, fill it out, and
scan it in.
Scan it back in. And do it once and it's done.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, there's some things that just become so overly complicated that it's inefficient.
I love Command. I do. I love Command and I love, opportunities. I was just having some issues with DocuSign. So.
Gotcha. And this is the workaround we're trying to figure out. That's why I'm going to talk docs with you guys because we are coming up quick on the deadline where there's no longer going to be a dot loop, and I don't want somebody out there on Saturday at 8:30 trying to write a purchase contract September 2nd and get pissed off because he can't do that contract and calling me at 9 o'clock at night. 1, it's not going to be a very fun conversation for me because you're going to be pissed off. And 2, my smart ass aleck attitude is probably not going to work real well with your frustration. So
I got you, Dan.
So
just go ahead, Tess. I'm sorry.
So is there, from my perspective, I'm always the one that likes to have the backup plan. So is there a valid reason or a valid thing that I would download every form that I needed in a master and copy off a couple and have it in hard copy so that I would never be caught like that where I couldn't do that?
If you want to. Now you're taking it back to the old days, Tess, where people had boxes full of purchase contracts.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I get pissed off because it's gotten to the point now in the transition years when they were going to the point of sale and all that stuff, everybody still had their old school card reader things, and they still had their old, the receipt box that you would, roll up the next one and write it out by hand. They still did that because power would go out, their Wi-Fi would go out, their point of sale server would go out, and they still had a way to serve customers. You don't find that anymore. They just closed the store.
I when, not to date myself at all, but when I got into this business, that's the way it was. There was none of this DocuSign stuff, and every single form, which we have a lot more forms, I carried 3 and 4 copies of the forms in a briefcase with me everywhere I went.
Yeah.
And to this day, if you look at any listing agreements I take or anything I do, it is ink on paper, belly to belly. I sign the stuff. I'd encourage, which, you're in Dan's program, but I'd encourage you guys to do that, because I'm telling you what, you got somebody at a house and they say, let's write an offer. And you guys are saying, okay, well, I'll go back to the office and fool around with these systems. You can just get that out and do it on the trunk of the car. I mean, that's the way we did it.
I caught myself today in that situation. I went, number one, I had a last minute yesterday invite to do a showing of the house that I was going to do the open house on Saturday. And this guy was coming in from out of state. So there was a very real possibility that he would see the house, like the house, and boom, want to make an offer. And I had no way to get in and do that. I hadn't gotten that far yet. I had nothing when I went out there today. Thankfully, it all went okay. But I would never do that. Secondly, it is so far out in the remote part of Cochise County, I didn't even have data that I could have used my phone as a hotspot.
FYI, Pioneer Title has a home buyer's binder guide that has all of the general contracts in it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have been able to go by there. Pioneer Title was 2 hours away from the site.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you want paper copies, I would recommend contacting them and getting one, because I keep one with me normally all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do, because I just can't. I love technology, but I can't be dependent on it.
No, like Sean says, I have a copy of a listing and a purchase agreement all docs in my truck in the event that I'm in that situation. And I've used them.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's the way
finding docs on the hood of my truck.
Yeah. Well, I've done drawings that way too. But
that's
here's the other thing. I got so frustrated. Our printer didn't print yesterday. There is not a single place in 7 mile circle around Rita Ranch to go get copies. There's no Staples, there's no Office Max, there's no UPS store, there's no Kinko's, there's nothing.
Next time, just email it to me, Tess. I'll print it and bring it to you.
No, this was stuff that we had to print out and do a wet signature and then scan back in.
Yeah.
And our printer scanner had gone out. So, yeah.
So it's good to have
technology is great when it works.
Cheap printer at the house. A cheap mobile printer is even better.
I know. I need to get one.
Yeah.
The bug out box, if you will, for work.
Yep.
Yeah. Of course, I need to pay my car insurance first.
Just to reiterate that, though, I mean, back when I got into this business 15 years ago, every addendum, Binzer, everything, wet signature, go find the seller, or seller or buyer, have them come to you.
Yeah, you're old.
10 o'clock at night to get them to sign something, and then go to the office to fax it, which that was a relatively new invention back then. So yeah, you guys have no idea. You guys are bitching about having all this electronic stuff, and it's kind of amusing to me because
I'm older than you are, and I prefer paper and pen.
And you can do that. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's just the way you turn it into the brokerage has to be through that system.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is good. This is good because it gives you options. I don't want any of you to be stuck and have a situation where you're like, "Oh, what do I do?" I worked hard to get a client. I talked to my entire database. I went through everything. I created a rapport. I showed them a house. They want to write a contract. Now what do? You can be in a class a million fucking times and you will not for 1 second remember a minute of how to write a contract the moment you need to.
It's so true.
It is
My
true.
mind was blank.
I asked every one of you to do something on Monday. What was it?
To send you a contract.
Send you a contract.
To send me a purchase contract as if you were the buyer's agent and I was the selling agent. How many do you think I've received?
I'm going to do that.
Well, I need to do that because I
I'll
would
do it.
have been caught with my pants down today.
I will say that the first offer I received only had one error in it.
And honestly,
It was a phone number.
and I actually blame that on DocuSign because I was struggling with that same thing and I would save it and it would do weird stuff.
Yeah.
That's why you guys need to have multiple systems you can understand and use. DocuSign has the forms. Zip Forms has the forms. You have both. One with your alliance with Keller Williams, one with your alliance with TAR. Or I think AAR, Armless does the same thing.
Yeah.
Dan, I like using Transaction Desk too.
And then all of it is under Transaction Desk for NAR and AAR.
Dan, I have a question.
What's up, Mike?
So I have a new construction build that I started in Dotloop, but it won't close until probably, January?
Migrate it.
Migrate it? Okay.
Get it all out.
Migrate it out. If it's not going to close by October, move it to DocuSign or to Command. And it's simple. All you got to do is download the documents and then upload them into the back end of DocuSign. Go into Add Documents on Command, and you can go and click all the different documents and get them quickly sorted into the compliance loop.
Even though I have, a lot of them approved, they're still submitted for compliance?
Yes. You have to just resubmit it, let them know that's in there. And then you'll put a note in there saying previously submitted in Dotloop, not going to close until January. Because Dotloop for us goes completely away. It's not like we're going to have access on the back end. No, we are completely, Heather is dumping all of the documents into some offsite remote server in the Cayman Islands. I don't know. And then come October 31, done. That is the absolute final cutoff. No more Dotloop. Logins terminated. Agreement shut off. It's like the lights are out. You can't go back in. It recorded kind of thing.
Boy.
So I want to stress to you guys as newer agents and having business starting for you guys and start rolling into that. Don't learn Dotloop to a level you're going to be committed to it. Start using DocuSign. Get frustrated with the new program. Learn the new program. Understand the new program. But have a redundancy. I absolutely love that Sean says that. Have the paper copies. It literally makes your life 1,000 times easier.
Yeah, because in an emergency situation, you have that backup. Here you go. Let's do this. So
yeah,
the seller tells me they're ready to list the house. We're doing paperwork. It's not okay. I'll go somewhere and I'll write this up and email it to you. I mean, we're gonna put the rubber to the road right then. It's not gonna be
no time
I'll do a later thing, and you get time to think about it.
Yeah.
So
totally agree, Sean.
So
yep.
Don't cost your guys selves thousands of dollars in listing commissions or seller and buyer commissions because you had to go send an email. I've been guilty of pulling my computer out in the middle of a driveway, writing an offer while another agent's sitting there waiting to show the house, and back my truck up, let them go show the house and tell them, hey, I'm writing an offer on it right now, and have my buyers stand right there and sign everything with me.
I got to, the craziness you guys are dealing with out there right now with working with buyers and stuff and how heated the market is. I was doing this the last time that all happened.
Yeah.
And there was actually a time I was in a house, and this is how heated the market was. I'm in the house. The guy says, yeah, I want to write an offer. I go out to my car. I get the forms. I go back in the house. I lock the front door, and we do it at the seller's kitchen table, write up the offer. And there's an agent banging on the door trying to get in the house because the key safe doesn't have the key, right? so yeah. So.
Hey, Sean, when I was in Ignite 2 years ago, Michelle taught a class for us. can you still hear me? Michelle taught a class, and she told us to do that. And she told us to download Cam Scanner. You can write the offer and send it from inside the house to be the first one to send it to the agent before you even let it in. I love that.
Yeah.
I've done.
Turbo scan right there.
Well, that didn't exist 15 years ago. Yeah. I was on a BlackBerry back then, and I think I might have had a Razor.
I miss my BlackBerry.
Send them a picture of each page. Here's page 1, here's page 2, here's page 3. Actually, I did a deal with you guys on the Polson team when I was out at my last brokerage and we didn't have the FPDS. And I just told Stephanie, I was just send me a picture of each page. I'll scan it myself. And she did. I think they were at back east somewhere, and she just sent me a picture of each page of the SPDS. Make whatever you can do to make it easy, you're going to make a deal. So that's what it's. Mike, what'd you do to the septic
It
system?
works. It works.
Everything you wanted to know about septic systems, I'm learning this week.
Leach fields.
Got some leach fields.
Built a few.
Yep.
I've designed many of them, but I've actually built a few.
We're closing tomorrow.
Hey, Sean Polston, do you ever present offers in person to, like, representing the buyer, or anybody on your team do that?
I don't think they typically do. Way back when, I mean, I haven't personally worked with a buyer in like 9 years. But I did that way back in the day. It was much more common back then too. So
yeah,
Jody still can.
Yeah, Jody taught a class that I was in a year ago, and she told me that back when market was really hot 2 years ago, that she was doing that sometimes, that she would go and present an offer on behalf of a buyer to the seller, and they get accepted a lot more often than just getting sent through their agent. And at the time I thought that was pretty cool. I've never done it, but now I'm kind of starting to think maybe I should give it a shot.
You know, you do when you're the listing agent and the buyer's agent wants to present the offer in person.
What do you do?
That's what I was wondering.
Because now that means that you're going to get to go to the seller's house because you need to be there at the same time, right?
Yep.
So you go to the living room, and the living room's normally shaped kind of like a square. And you put a chair in one corner, you put a chair in another corner, then you put a chair in another corner, forming like a triangle, and then you put a chair in the middle. And that's the buyer's agent's chair. You put one seller on the left side of the buyer's agent, one seller on the right side of the buyer's agent, and you sit straight across.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that son of a bitch will never want to present an offer in person to one of your listings ever again. You do that.
I'm down, Sean. We're gonna have ourselves a party.
Yeah, they have to do this. They have to do this move when they're talking to each seller. They have to do this, you know. So.
Hey, Dan.
Oh, nowadays, yes, sir.
I would like to see you in that center chair. I might just have a buyer for you so you can get in the position. That'd be good video.
Yeah. If there's any way to put a spotlight at them too, that'd be great. But,
oh, right. I need the rest of the room completely darkened.
Yeah.
And if we could just have a slow drip in a water pan,
Right.
it would take me back to my teenage years.
Sean,
What's that? I couldn't hear you.
John, will you be smoking a cigarette in this scenario and blowing it in their face?
No. Well, yeah, you can't do that inside anymore. So.
Damn COVID and the restrictions on me having some kind of interrogation-based offering. Do I get to wear all black? I'd like to make an offer on your house, please.
Well, the living room's oftentimes the biggest room in the house too, right? So they're sitting right there in the middle of the room, you know. So.
I've seen some pretty massive living rooms. That would be uncomfortable. With 30 by 40, you're stretching.
Good practice there, Dan.
You got to be ready for every situation, guys, and that's where it's all about, Mike.
Yeah.
if the master in real estate is going to give me that advice, I'm doing it. I'm getting ready for it. And he legit has a master's degree in real estate. Yes, the master of real estate.
There we go.
But that's some good advice. So if you guys have not done so, print out a copy. If you want me to do that for you as a gift, I will. I will print you out a blank copy of all the docs for a buyer and a seller, and I will have little clips on them, and you can come pick them up. But that requires you to come see me, and we have to sit and discuss your business for a while. I'm going to peel it apart. I'm going to find out what's broken, and I'm going to give you a gift of some documents.
And
probably some more business. Anyway. I'm going to find something.
Well, I feel broken tonight. That's the other thing. I've hit the Prosecco a little early.
God damn it, you just reminded me I've got some Zinfandel in the refrigerator. Should have gone and gotten it. I made homemade pizza crusts from scratch. And both my grandson, who is very picky, and my son said it was fabulous. So I'm like really excited now.
I think next week we're not going to do a mastermind. We're just going to do a happy hour.
By the way, what's
everybody drinking tonight?
Just let you guys get fucked up and talk on the call.
I got Moosehead.
I missed the party.
Whiskey sour right here.
I saw you. I saw you were making something up.
This is where real estate gets real, guys. You've got two senior agents, mega agent, mega team owner. This is where you learn. Let's go a little tipsy and hear the secrets of real estate.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I like hearing the how it used to be done or whatever, because those are some secrets that get lost.
I can tell you how it used to be done 10 years ago when I first got into business. You didn't miss a fucking signature. You didn't miss a line on a contract. You didn't miss anything. They wouldn't accept it. I can only imagine even further back when Sean got in it, it was. You had to go chase the seller down. You don't miss initials when you got to go drive 30 minutes to get the damn thing signed. You don't miss. You sit there.
From the military standpoint, that's sort of what I'm used to. You know, it's a real thing. Dot the I's, cross the T's, etc. You know, and so some of the haphazard way things are done bothers me often. So.
You know, the Native Americans used to scratch it on the wall in the caves. We can still see it. Maybe we should go back to that.
It's
last night, believe me, I would have agreed with that after I was, redoing these friggin' forms 4 or 5 times because of the system kept messing it up. I'm like, ah. So.
Knowing the forms and the systems is going to be paramount to your success. But being able to say, fuck it, print it out, and fill it in all yourself, it's key. So knowing there's a form for that is a big deal, guys. I mean, you guys should read through all of the forms and know what they say. I mean,
that's where I've been. That's why I said I felt sort of bad that I jumped on this opportunity, and then as soon as I did, it was like, whoa, I don't have anything I need to be ready for this.
Well, and you were panicked. You were panicked, which I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
You in there feeling confident.
I couldn't breathe. My stomach was in my throat, but it wasn't the first time that's ever happened. I forget now who I said this to. Maybe it was Renee or Heather or somebody. I said, oh, I'm going. I have no docs. I have I don't know where anything is. I don't know who I would talk to if this came up, but I've been in a war zone, so it can't be too much worse than that. I'm out of here. I'm doing it. So,
good for you for jumping in, and Dan, and there's so many people, and you can call me. If I don't know it, I will call Dan.
And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm the kind of person, once I hit any kind of an obstacle that I have to correct, I will never, ever forget that step, ever.
That's how you
that-
learn. You learn by messing it up and moving forward. I want you guys to take Sean's advice. Go through the documents, read them, understand them, know there's a document for that. Like I was talking to an agent the other day that was trying to submit an offer on a for sale by owner, and she asked me, what do I do? I was like, you walk in there first with an unrepresented seller compensation agreement before ever issuing a purchase contract. She's all, why is that? I was like, because if they take that purchase contract and you don't have that other form signed, they don't have to pay you.
And an agency disclosure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because these are all forms that I was at Tier Antigua for a while, and I was at Omni for a while. I never knew about that form. Hell, my old broker once told me not to use the buyer broker because it turns people off. I was like, well, what about losing the business or getting screwed out? You know, it turns me off too, and I'm probably the more important person in the situation.
Be sure to waive the appraisal too.
That's why I love that idea of the org chart, or not org chart, the flow chart of the processes. I was creating one because that's what I am used to living by. When there's a process and it's got, you know, has this happened? No, yes, do this document, no, make this phone call, you know, there is no way you can mess that up if you have every single step in there.
Have you seen the flow chart?
I've been looking at it. I've been working on it.
Like this is it right here. This is the flow chart.
I know.
DocuSign. And it's all the pretty pictures and the clicks and the what to do next, and then all of this shit that's just confusing. It even says on the process we're talking about doing the zip forms, it's right here, the process on how to use your zip forms, or from the computer. These two are going to be the easiest. If you already have them pre-filled out, just download on your computer, upload them. If not, pull them from zip forms and then move through the list. But knowing each one of these documents and what it is, what it says, where you need to sign, as a seller's agent, when you start doing listings, the more you know a purchase contract and where you need to fill things out, the faster you can identify those things in a purchase offer and go, well, they're asking for us to pay for the appraisal. They're asking for us to do closing costs. They're asking for us to buy a warranty. They're asking us for an extension on our, inspection periods. You can identify all those things. You want to know how many contracts I oversee that the selling agent has missed the fact that the seller is paying for the appraisal? It's one of the most missed boxes now. It used to be the commission, the closing costs. Used to be. And typically a closing cost is what, 3%? Typically, what are you getting paid? 3%? I don't know if you want to sell a house for free. I don't.
Dan, are you saying that buyers agents are writing contracts asking the seller to pay for the appraisal? Hoping
yeah,
buy?
We've seen those. It's funny when we see them.
Yeah, like they think they're sneaky.
Melissa's house that she's selling for this listing she has in Cottonwood Ranch. They asked her to give. They paid a little bit more on the house to cover closing costs, but 3.5% closing costs, buying a home warranty, paying for the inspection, paying for the appraisal. And on page 8 went into long detail of what the closing costs would cover. Inspections, other fees and all this. Like, it was a paragraph long of stuff. And the way it almost read that they were paying 3.5% in closing costs plus paying for the inspections, paying for any of the other closing fees, paying for any of the banker's fees, the way they wrote it. So, I mean, Melissa, being diligent, caught it, corrected it in the counter, and just reiterated what it says on line 101, 102. Closing costs shall include anything accepted by the bank. That's it.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful.
You guys would do well to, rather than asking for 3% towards closing costs, to actually have a conversation with the buyer's lender to find out what they need closing cost wise. The reason being, if your buyer only needs $4,000 for closing costs, you're writing an offer on a $200,000 house and you're asking for 3%, and they're not going to use 3% is $6,000. there's going to be another $2,000 that isn't getting used.
Yeah.
But the seller's factoring that into their net on whether or not they're going to take your offer. So having a conversation with the lender about what you actually need for closing costs for that buyer can mean your buyer getting the house or not getting the house.
Great advice.
So, yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many times we get offers that have like these blanket 3% requests or 3.5% or whatever the case may be. And then we get another offer that's every bit as good and they need $2,500, you know? So it can make the difference between your buyer getting the house and not.
That's
and
awesome.
actually, to the listing agents, those of us that are super experienced listing agents, it tells us something about how seriously you're working with the buyer when you know a dollar amount that the buyer needs versus a, you know, blanket request for 3%. So
That's awesome. And that goes in the box on line 101, 102. So other than the 3%, if you're going to use that second box, make sure you put a dollar amount that's accurate. Don't be like the offer we saw last week where they put 2.5 in line 102, meaning that they were giving $2.50 in closing costs.
Yeah.
Legit. And they accepted that offer. So you think that buyer's agent's a little twisted? He's got to pay that because it was his mess up.
He's probably not getting any referrals from that client.
well, if he puts it to sleep, he will.
Yeah.
If, you know, like it's like when you screw up, you know, and you need to do a termite inspection on a VA thing and you didn't do it, and now there's termites and that needs to get taken care of, and you step up as a buyer's agent and just put that to sleep, the buyer's still going to love you. You know, when you start, you know.
I really think your professionalism shows when you screw up and how you fix it.
Yeah, you take care of it. You put it to sleep.
You can't show you're a professional if something goes wrong. If everything goes smooth, it doesn't become a world-class experience. If something goes wrong and you handle it with ease, like, don't worry, I got this. And you throw a couple $100 at it to fix it, and they're like, oh my God, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I take care of my buyers. In the back of your mind is like, oh, thank God they didn't sue me.
Yeah,
So,
that would be a good class, Dan. Have a panel on how we fucked up and how we fixed everything.
I really do. That's what I love about these masterminds, and I'm appreciative the two of you joined in because it's adding so much more value that the new agents need because they don't have the at-bats that you do. They don't have the 1,500 deals that you look at a year that you may not take or take. That's huge.
I think Jason's a little shy of that number, but I could be wrong. So
I'm just thankful that I get to make my enchiladas and have my whiskey sours while I participate. So thanks for having me.
Well, my wife had to take one of our dogs to the vet, so I was like, I'm just sitting here by myself. I'll jump on. So
yeah, I love it. It adds to it. So one of the values I get is I got challenged once, and they're like, "Well, we looked at your MLS. You don't have that many at bats." And I was like, "That's cute," because you know I've overlooked hundreds of deals this year already, and the deals I get to hold of are the ones that are already on fire.
Oh, God.
It's not the ones that are going smooth. It's the ones that are, oh, hey, Dan, I got a problem. I need help. And we fix it. So where's my expertise come from? My expertise comes from, oh, I fucked up. How to fix it? So I think that would be fantastic. Sean, are you barking? Did you let the dogs out?
All right, you get them all.
But having that conversation, you know, in open forum and say, hey, this is what happened. This is how I fixed it. Have you learned from it, right?
Yep.
I remember this, one of my first deals with a friend, I was selling a condo and I got 3% for closing costs on a condo. Woohoo! What's the problem? Condos closing costs are much higher, like 4.5%. Thank God it was a cheap condo. So I wound up paying $500 out of my own pocket on a VA loan for a condo. So not only was it the highest lending type for closing costs, but it was also the highest property value type for closing costs. So I was able to save face with that, and $500 out of my pocket doesn't seem like a whole much, but if you look at the total commission on the deal was $3,200. And I gave up 500 of it to fix my screw up. And the seller would have gladly paid had I asked up front. So having that conversation with the lender, how much do I need in closing costs? Exactly. And then also, how much can I go on this house? How high can we go in offer price before we get in trouble? Because they're going to look at HOA, they're going to look at taxes, they're going to look at, you know, reserves that your client has. Having a conversation that way is going to hedge out a lot of the issues that you're going to find, especially just putting that blanket 3%. I love what Sean says, put a dollar amount there because it shows you're serious. If you need $4,796 in closing costs, you put that dollar on the line. There's two things at play here. One, you're showing, sorry, my dog's pulling me off the chair. One, you're showing that you're willing to take extra work and find out exactly what you need, but you're also putting in a number that's not just fictitious. Did you know if I give you a response, okay, Tess, I'm going to give you $4,550 for closing costs, psychology dictates that that number can be moved because there's a zero at the end.
Yeah.
It's one of our common set numbers, 50s and 100s. Tess, I need $4,596 in closing costs. Do you think that there is any movement on that number?
No.
I have taken it to the dollar.
Yeah.
It's because if you know you need $4,725 in closing costs and you ask for $4,725 in closing costs, that is a finite number that they don't think has got some movement in it. So it's super important to have what you need on the document line. Is a home warranty important? For God's sakes, fill out the whole thing. Don't just put TBD. Choose your home warranty company. Choose the additional coverages. Find out the exact dollar amount. Just because it's a $700 home warranty does not mean they're going to say no if it has a pool and an extra refrigerator and a dual AC system. But the fact that you put $550 TBD means you didn't take the time to look up what the warranty would be and what coverages are going to be there for you. So you're just phoning it in. Jason, let me ask you, on page 10 of the purchase contract, if you're writing a purchase contract, if you're doing it, do you fill in the selling agent's information?
On page 10?
Yeah, where all the signing goes?
No, I let them do it.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't want to get anything wrong. You know, maybe their address changed, maybe their MLS code changed. I make them be responsible for it.
Okay. That's a good point. I'm the opposite. I always fill it in. Because to me, it shows that I'm willing to put in the effort to make it easier on them. Because however you can make it easier on the other side, the easier it is to gain agreement. And their MLS information is not going to change because it's in the listing. You just copy and paste. The only thing I don't know is the address of the brokerage, and I'll sometimes leave that blank.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, you brought up a topic that kind of piqued my interest. You're talking about negotiations and certain numbers, you know, like when it comes to negotiating a closing cost. But I'm thinking, like, how does that apply to pricing a house, like a list price? And I was thinking, if Sean's still on the call, you ever list a house with a price like $267,000, 542? You ever do that?
I am still here. No. And you want to know my reasoning behind that, I'm guessing?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, so what I want you guys to do as an exercise is to go to the Zillows and Realtor.coms of the world, which, you know, I could get into a whole diatribe about why those things even exist. It's only because we allow them to exist. We give them our information. We could cut them off at any point, but it would take the collective of us to do it. But get on those sites to look at the way you search for a house. And in most cases, what you do is there's a drop down.
Yeah.
So, and it's 250, you know, it's 200 to 220 or 200 to 250 or whatever the brackets are of the pricing. And so if you price a house at $251,852.65, thinking that that's a number, well, everybody who goes on those sites and searches and they set their thing to 250,
yeah, they're going to
they're not going to see the house.
Yep.
So my my personal opinion is you're better to be priced at whatever one of those drop downs are, because you catch everybody looking above it and you catch everybody looking up to it.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, that's the logic that I follow, and sometimes I question it. So I appreciate your sharing that. Like if I've got somebody that I think is valued in the low 270s, we're going on 275 to try to catch those buyers that are looking above and below 275.
And you'd actually find that 274,999 doesn't draw as much traffic as 275.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that incorporates into his price reduction conversations, because which we're not having as many of those now as I got to have back in the day, but when you're having a price reduction conversation, they're like, oh, let's reduce it $3,000. And it's like, well, here's what kind of concerns me about that is while it'll blast it out, it's blasting it out to the same group of people that have already seen it. I'd really like it if you guys got to expose it to a new group of people. So if we go to this bracket, just based on the way these sites search, if you're here, we're going to expose it to a whole different group of people. So let's do the right thing.
Awesome. I love that show. Thank you.
Yeah, so realtor.com, just pulling it up, shows when you do a price search, your first bracket's 120, 250, 350, 450, 600, 700, 800 on the right side bracket to start with. So they go from 120 to 250. That's a huge value.
Yeah, and the other ones though are there's a lot of them that are more narrow, but there's very few of these sites that they get to just enter. I'm looking for homes between 142,000 and 146,000, like we get to do in the back end of MLS.
Right.
And what we're looking for is the general public. I mean, not what we get to do. We're looking for those folks. So looking at those brackets on these different sites and knowing how that works is a big thing, and talking to the sellers and coaching them.
That's awesome. Yeah. I implore you all to go do that and find out what those brackets are. Take notes of it. I know Tess has already started doing so. I can see her brain clicking.
So can I touch, you mentioned buyer broker agreement, and you had a brokerage that told you that put people off. Do you mind if I spoke to that for a minute?
Not at all.
All right. How many of you guys think if you put a buyer broker agreement in front of a buyer and they say, no, I'm not signing that, means that you no longer get to sell them a house?
Not true.
How many of you think that? That if I put a buyer broker agreement in front of them and they go, no, I'm not going to commit to working with you, that means you can't still sell them a house? Anybody think that?
I never really thought about it one way or the other. I just thought it was mandatory.
That's not a bad way to think. So, but here's the thing about thinking it's mandatory, though. You could shortchange yourself. There's nothing that says if you put a buyer broker agreement in front of a buyer and there you go, no, I'm not going to commit to working with you, that doesn't mean you can't go still be procuring cause and sell them a house and get paid a commission. It means you have a better idea of where you stand with that buyer, though. So you're more of a target of opportunity that if you have the time and you can invest it in them and this, everything lines up, yeah, they'll do business with you. Right?
Yeah.
But you have a better idea of where you stand with them. Whereas if you have 4 other buyers that you're giving your time to, or 3 or 2 or whatever the number, even if it's just one other buyer that is willing to sign that agreement with you, who's going to be the priority in your life?
Yes.
The one who signed saying, I'm working with you.
Absolutely.
By that same token, if you put the buyer broker agreement in front of them and they say, well, here's the thing, if we look at this one house and we like it, we'll buy it from you, but we're just going to deal with listing agents. We're just going to deal with, whoever answers the phone, and whoever brings us the deal is the one we're going to work with. Is that valuable information for you guys to have?
Very much so.
Yeah. You're not going to do a damn thing for them. I mean, maybe you are. It depends on what kind of time you have, but it's like, if you show them that one house and they don't want to buy it, the idea that you're going to invest a ton of time into them, or you're going to really wonder why they're ghosting you, not answering your phone calls anymore, it's not going to be a surprise.
Right.
So just, I mean, my team, the way we function is with buyer agreements, and it's the same thing. I mean, if we have somebody that it's like, well, we'll buy the house from you guys if it's the right house, but we're going to keep calling on signs or whatever they're doing that they think is the best way to do it, great. We're just not going to invest a ton of time into chasing after that person that doesn't want to get caught.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say to you guys with buyer broker, especially if you're doing buyer consultations versus chasing buyers to houses, is that if it's actually extremely rare they won't sign a buyer broker agreement if you sit down with them talking about the buying process and that you're going to be able to take them through it. I mean, those, once you get them to the office, those convert at an incredibly high rate.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, I mean, they converted upwards of 85%. I mean, and
Really?
once they're to the office, if you talk to them, unless you completely say something just incredibly stupid, you're going to convert that to a buyer broker agreement, and they're going to work with you, and you're going to have a written agreement with them. It's one of the biggest things I find with buyer broker agreements. The agent never even asked. They never even asked. They didn't ask because, like Dan said earlier, his brokerage he was at before, they didn't advocate for buyer broker agreements because they thought it might offend them. And I found out the opposite's true. Most people are like, yeah, let's work together. So,
John, can I ask you something?
uh-huh.
So I have an issue in my business where somebody says they want to buy a house. I say, great, come on into the office. I'd love to chat with you. Then we do a buyer consultation. They sign an agreement. I stay in touch, and they drop off. I stay in close touch, and they drop off. I find myself bringing in people that are not super motivated. And I do a consultation with them, I get an agreement signed, and I'm starting to feel like I've got files of buyer brokers signed with people that might not ever buy a house.
Well, that gets to motivation, right? So, yeah. And also one of the interesting things about buyer broker agreements. So let me give you guys a quick snapshot of the evolution of Sean, because Sean started out just like you guys, went to Hogan, got a real estate license, running amok as a solo agent by himself. So I didn't wake up one day and find myself with a real estate license and a team of 8 agents in 2 different states. So at about 1.5 years into the business, I decided I wasn't going to work with anybody that wasn't willing to sign a buyer broker agreement with me. And my buyer business actually went up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, one of the things I did that was different than most of the agents were doing. A lot of agents would do a buyer broker agreement with a buyer, and they'd sign them to a 6-month agreement.
Ooh, 6 months.
6 months, year, whatever. These long-term agreements. I'd sign the buyer to a 2-week agreement.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a change of thought too, because I do 6 months to years because it's just easy on the math.
What expectation are you setting, my friend?
Oh man,
that makes sense.
I take a look at their credit, where they are on their credit, and kind of base mine off of that. Because
Sure.
I mean, if they need 6-7 months to fix their credit or get it raised, then I kind of use that as a way to determine how long I want that agreement to kind of.
Absolutely. And that makes complete sense. I mean, if they're a long-term buyer and I'm not like going and showing them houses today, that makes complete sense to sign them to a longer-term agreement. But let's assume they're ready, willing, and able.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to find you a house in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Right.
That's money, Sean. Thank you for sharing
Jason
that.
and I were both like, okay, I'm taking that.
3 weeks.
Cha-ching.
Yeah.
3
My life
weeks.
will be
4
forever
weeks.
different. Yeah.
And here's the reality of it, guys. I mean, I got into the business. There was about 4 weeks of the crazy market like we're in now. And then it all went to hell. Well, it stalled out and then it all went to hell. And all of a sudden you have 10,000 listings on the market and 600 a month are selling, right? So there was plenty of choices for the buyers to be able to buy a house back then. Now, I mean, I get what you guys are going through right now because I got to do it the last time around. But you know, the idea that you've got a ready, willing, and motivated buyer, and they're not going to pull the trigger within seeing a dozen houses over the span of 2 weeks. I honestly, because I was doing so much, I was so listing centric, and the buyers were just something I did because I had to. If they weren't buying a house that quickly, I didn't want to work with them for 6 months. I didn't want to keep showing them houses all that time. That drives. I can't stand being in a house with a buyer. I mean, it's just the the nature of my.
Tell us how you really feel, Sean.
No, I mean, it's like if I do it now, I haven't done it in years, but I remember like standing there looking at my watch and tapping my shoe and being like, "You want it or not? Let's go." You know. So.
That's awesome. Well, guys, it is 7:01. I want to say thank you, Sean, so much for adding some excellence to the call. Appreciate you, Jason. You too. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We are going to work the next couple of weeks. There's going to be a ton of trainings, a ton of classes on the documents and DocuSign, Command, all the Command compliance stuff. If you do not have an intimate understanding of how the systems work, go in there, play with them, break them. Use your own systems, create your own documents, sign them yourself, send them to me to check. But all of you just be able to get there and get it handled. If you need some one-on-one assistance and love, I will do small groups and get everything paired together. But we have no choice to adapt and change. I think you guys should all take notes of what was talked about today with the buyer broker, how to do your contracts on the closing costs, doing finite numbers instead of percentages. If those two things alone, I think will help make you a better agent. I want to say thank you for that, Sean. Appreciate you. You guys have yourselves a wonderful evening. I'll see you guys in the morning if you want to jump on the script and role play 8 a.m.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good night,
you,
guys.
guys.